hand back to Stonewall and join Miss Wilson. From here, I get a sweep of the whole
We're back.
Oh, we're back together.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Canadian
Because
soil for me.
what's that?
I said back in Canadian soil for me.
Right. And back, the two of us are back together after the audience will be subjected to just a solo project last week.
Reunited.
Daryl, it's going to serenade everybody. I'm just going to sit back.
Yeah. No, that's it. It's
Okay,
just-
that's it. Okay, good.
I'm not the singer here.
That's true. In this little duo, are you the backup singer?
Bands of Heroes.
Oh,
I'm gonna say just dropped it.
Daryl's giving away secrets, trade secrets.
Bands of Heroes, check it out.
What do you want to talk about?
Huh.
You know what's funny, Daryl? When you remember, so this is now, we are getting close to our 2-year anniversary. This is kind of crazy on this show. That is crazy. I remember when we first started and we were doing like 25 to 27 minute episodes because we were thinking like, oh, we'll make it like as long as like a typical average commute. And it's just, our show is a study in how normalcy bias creeps in. Like we just slowly start to normalize making this show 30 minutes and then it was 35. And now we get to 40 and Darryl and I are like, well, I guess we should probably wrap it up. Meanwhile, we're twice as long as we were when we started. It's ridiculous. I've
had a lot of listeners message me about that and be like, you know, I went through and listened to all your previous episodes. You used to do them a lot shorter. Now they're really long. Like, yeah, I don't know if that's a good comment or not, but
that's what I was going to ask.
We can't help it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's worse when we don't talk on the show for a while. Like we'll talk privately about things and then things just start to like build up. And then we get here together and it's like, we're just like,
yeah,
going on and on.
We definitely talk privately a lot. There's a lot going on in the world. How's the US feeling in the atmosphere? Does it feel heavy there? Does it feel fine, normal, everybody's good, or?
It's a good question. I don't think I could answer that accurately only because like we all tend to live in our own bubbles. I think there's a lot of optimism. And that's what the polls kind of reflect too. There's no doubt that there's going to be, you're speaking of things like tariffs or just like, and in general, this dramatic 90-degree turn we did from the last administration to this administration and RFK and a lot of upheaval. I think though, Daryl, that most people have been thinking for a long time, there's something wrong. We can't put our finger on it. Maybe we don't even understand what it is, but there's something wrong. And now somebody wants to do something different. And so let's give them a little grace. Let's see what happens. There's definitely going to be some bumps and bruises. I heard a great quote from Thomas Sowell recently who said, there are no solutions. There are only compromises. And I thought that was brilliant because, in other words, there's no perfect solution to anything. Everything you do is going to have a positive and a negative, and your job as an adult is to weigh the positive and negative and move in that direction. And I believe that's what Donald Trump is doing. I believe that's what RFK is doing. Of course, there's going to be people that lose jobs. There may be even businesses that have to, shut their doors, and that's never a good thing. But if you look at this from the large, 30,000 foot view or for the long play, I think what's going on here is going to be positive. You're just going to have to roll with the changes. That's why Trump's been putting out a lot of that stuff, like stay strong, stick with us. We're going to get through this. And I like that messaging. He's not saying it's going to be perfect. He's like, there's going to be some bumps in the road, but we have to fix 50 years of a mess, and it's not going to happen overnight, but it's going to happen.
Yeah. And there is going to be mistakes too.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I think people forget that when somebody's in that position of power, or they forget to give them a little bit of grace. And I'm not saying like constantly give somebody grace at the cost of hurting humans or endangering humans. I'm saying like, you might not say the right thing all the time, and you might be offensive like he can be, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very different here, I would say to you. Very heavy here.
Hmm.
Yes.
And we
Yes.
know why, right? I
Yes, of
mean,
course. Yeah. So for us right now, remember how they were painting Putin on the news?
mhm,
Like just like this evil man.
cartoon character level evil.
That is what it is here right
Yeah.
now. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's fascinating, Daryl, because again, nobody was screaming when there's so many. We're going to get so off track already. In the last 4 years, I saw so many horrible things happen that actually did cost human lives. And I think it's interesting. Like, real quick, we're not going to get into this at all because I find it to be completely obnoxious and useless. But there's this big controversy here with the use of the app Signal. I don't know if you've heard this controversy over here. It's like a few of Trump's cabinet members, defense secretary, whatever, they inadvertently, there was a journalist from The Atlantic inadvertently added to a private Signal chat between cabinet members, and they were detailing some of the I don't even want to call them war plans because they weren't. They were more like just some strategic things, and it was a mistake. He shouldn't have been on there. Who knows how he got on there? And but in the end, the strike on this Houthi terrorist group was successful. No casualties, on the American side. They were basically trying to stop them from attacking U.S. cargo ships, which they've been doing for the last 4 years under Joe Biden, and they were putting a stop to it. And so this stuff got leaked out, and the Democrat Party tried to go after them for leaking classified information and all this stuff. Meanwhile, again, the operation was successful, and no casualties on the American side. Converse that with the Afghanistan withdrawal that was orchestrated by Joe Biden and his bunch of morons that cost 13 American soldiers and countless injuries, including civilians in Afghanistan, and the media didn't say a word. So it's just, it's a bizarre world to live in when you hate somebody so much that you can't ever see the good in something, and all you see is bad. And that's that cartoon world where like nothing is like that, but they want you to believe that Donald Trump is all bad. And it's just so bizarre because nothing works that way in the world. So I don't know what to make of it other than I just ignore the news because it's so painful to watch because they're like fifth graders. They don't have an evolved sense of the world or sense of self or sense of right and wrong, really.
Yeah.
Strange.
Yeah, they've already kind of ruled him to be bad before his actions are able to be judged, essentially, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you want to flip that, and we talk about Biden all the time, and we do say he was poor, he was bad, right? But it's because of actions that we are able to analyze. It's different. We're not saying he's a bad person. We're saying that the calls were bad, right? Well,
yeah. No.
You know what I mean.
I do, and I'm just.
We won't go down that road. We're not, I'm not in any position to judge anybody else's character. But.
No, but you're right. I mean, the thing is, we had 4 years to judge outcomes. And if people think that, I mean, I wanted him to be a good president for the US, for the world, and he just objectively wasn't. I don't know if people have this like rooting interest with their team. I don't belong to a team. I'm just rooting for humanity. And so I wanted Justin Trudeau to be a great prime minister. Like, why wouldn't you want that? See? I mean, I don't know what kind of person you would be if you were rooting against somebody just because of the party they belong to. I think that's part of the indoctrination. The media tells you belong to team red, you belong to team blue, and they're your enemy. And that is such a stupid way of looking at the world, but that's where we are. And we do the same thing in the health field, right? Like RFK, he's going to ruin health. It doesn't matter if he objectively does something positive, like launch, research into vaccines or whatever he's going to do. It's objectively bad because it's RFK, because he's tied to Trump, and therefore whatever he does is bad. It's
right. All he did was remove food coloring. Remember, like that's all he did. Like woohoo, big whoop. Yeah.
And so what we're going to talk about today for the end of the episode, for the majority of the episode, is actually, it's so interesting, Daryl. So the last time we spoke together, remember we covered that Texas bill where the American Heart Association was arguing against using soda for the SNAP program, right? And we were saying, imagine that. The American Heart Association was like, well, I'm not sure this is a good idea, right? And we were like, wow, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Well, some influencers, my favorite word, were caught shilling for the same side. And I just think it's really interesting. And I want to break this down with you because it's just interesting that it happened on the heels of us talking about it. And then we didn't talk. So last week I just did like a 20-minute episode. If you guys haven't seen it, pop back and just listen. I just set this whole thing up for us. But Daryl and I are going to go through the article today and just talk about that because I want to get her thoughts on it. I think it's fascinating, the world we live in, and how to discern truth. And even people that you think are on your team. And this is why I think teams are just a bad way to look at the world. It's like, you got to judge people based on what they do, not what they say, and what they do with consistency. It's not just like, I could tell you 1,000 things, Daryl, but if I go and do 1,000 things in the opposite direction, what does it matter what I say to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's how we should be judging the world, but we're not. But before we do that, because I do want to talk about this other thing, I want to share this with you because this is just super interesting of what's going on in the world. And the theme, Daryl, and you don't have to expand on this too much if you don't want to, but I wanted to throw this out to you. I made a note to myself for the beginning of this episode that the note was start with philosophy. Uh-oh. What does that mean?
Love that.
The question I asked myself, and then I said, I want to hear what Daryl has to say about this. So I intentionally didn't ask you beforehand, but
God damn it. I'm not prepared. Just kidding.
Here's the thing. I know when you don't need to be prepared. And this question, since it's philosophical, when is it okay to tell the truth? Is there a scenario where telling the truth is a net negative, or is it just blanket across the board? I know that you and I generally take the position of telling the truth is always the best thing, but you could weave this into a client, is it, people come to me sometimes and I know they want me to lie to them because they just want to feel like they're doing something. And so they don't want the truth because the truth can be painful sometimes. But I was just thinking about that a lot. Like, if the truth is going to cause pain, and maybe even more pain than good, is it still a valid reason to tell the truth? I don't know. It's just a super interesting thing that was rattling around my brain for the past couple of weeks, and we haven't had a chance to talk about it. But off the top of your head, are there any scenarios where you feel like it's not worth telling the truth, or what's your personal, professional, whatever?
My gut is telling me to always tell the truth, but I think it would be illogical to just throw out a blank statement and say yes all the time, right? Because there are so many nuances that can occur in each situation. However, I do believe that there is a delivery method that can be kind in telling the truth. You don't have to be an asshole and tell the truth, right?
Yeah.
So if it's something delicate, which I encounter all the time with working with women, with families, and all sorts of backgrounds and trauma and personal situations that occur, and I have never lied to them. I won't because I want to help them, right? And it may I don't know. It's a difficult one to. It's almost like you would have to shoot me some scenarios.
I know. No,
you're say, but my heart and my gut want to say, tell the truth.
Agreed, completely. Yeah. And you're right. It's very. I'm actually glad you said that because I don't think you can make a blanket statement because I think some scenarios may really challenge that. Like, so it's not necessarily about lying to somebody, but is not telling somebody something the same as not telling them the truth. And that's the.
No, I don't think that's the same.
Okay. So just withholding information that you have is not. That's
it depends what the information is. Like if say I don't, and this is like say I don't believe somebody's ready for something, right? Say I don't believe somebody's ready to work with me, and has a long list of excuses, and I'm just using clients because it's an easy one.
Sure.
I'm not going to. I might like kindly try a little bit and poke and see if there's a nibble where it's like, okay, I think this person wants this, right? Then I'll move forward. But if I'm not getting, if all I'm getting is resistance, then I might not say anything. I might just say, okay, no problem. You reach back out when you feel you have time and space and all that. I think there's a fine line. I think people aren't always ready to hear what you believe to be true, and also maybe it's not your job to constantly tell people the truth either, right? So there's that energetic space for telling the truth, I believe, or giving the truth and an opinion as well, because they kind of go together. My truth can be different than somebody else's truth, and I think that's where it kind of ebbs and flows. You gotta pick the time, and that's a very like easy situation. Like your question can be, if it was a very difficult, dangerous situation, death, murders, like those, then it's a whole different conversation, and I don't have experience there. So right.
And what if the scenario is that by not telling somebody something, they could potentially repeat the same mistake, even though telling them the truth about what they did will absolutely hurt them?
I think that if it's at the cost of somebody's like if it's at the cost of someone's life, or like if it's drastic and you feel it depends, Jay. Like,
I know. This is why I asked.
Like maybe sometimes you're just not meant to step in because it's not your fucking place, and but if it's somebody close to you that you love and it's going to protect them and others, it depends what we're talking about here. If it's something minimal, then it's a hard
you're
question
talking about,
to ask.
Yep, you're talking about nuance, and I think
because it's so broad, right? Like if you gave me like 4 scenarios, then I'd probably be able to be like,
okay, coming next week, I will give Daryl 4 scenarios.
You know what? I'd actually love to hear the answers of our audience on this question. Obviously, it's nuanced. Maybe people have examples of like, in this scenario, I would do this, but in this more severe scenario, I would do this. I would love to hear people's thoughts on that question.
Of course, if you're listening on Substack, you know where to comment. If you're listening on quitefrankly.tv, you can go to either one of our Substacks at the bottom of the screen here, and you can comment on this episode, because I think that is a great idea, Daryl, because I mean, that, it would be great to hear what people think isn't a scenario maybe where they've been put where they knew that telling the truth was the right thing, but they didn't do it. And then also maybe a scenario where they knew telling the truth was going to be difficult for somebody and they did it anyway. I just think I think you're right, Daryl. Actually, that is my answer as well, is that there is no absolute answer, but I have had moments in my life where I've struggled with this and wrestled with this, and the scenarios were of importance, I believed. And they were, they were not just like, it wasn't like arguing about the color you want to paint the walls. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't something like that. It was something really serious. And I thought that by telling the truth, it could potentially open their eyes to something later on down the road. But I also knew that by telling the truth, it could cause some cataclysmic pain. And it's just, you just go back and forth, and it's, depending on the scenario, it can be very challenging to navigate those waters. So I think your answer is exactly what I would say, and I would love to hear from the audience too.
My gut wants to say to always tell the truth.
I do too.
If I had to choose between the two, that would be, would be my answer. Tell the truth.
Especially the older I get, I just start to realize how valuable it is. It's just, it just leaves a lot less for you to, even if there are repercussions to you, at least you can always stand on that ground and say, well, I told the truth, so there's nothing that you have to sit there. And I mean, I suppose you could second guess whether you should have said anything, but certainly you don't have to second guess. I think it would be worse to second guess not saying something that could have prevented something, whereas dealing with the ramifications of saying something maybe just a little bit easier. I don't know. Probably again depends on the scenario.
Can you think of a scenario where you said something and you were like, damn, I shouldn't have said anything?
Not specifically, but maybe I can come up with one specifically, and I can even bring it to the show, because I think this is in some of the articles I was pulling for this week and maybe even next week's episode. That's what I was thinking, and it kind of actually played into this whole censorship thing during COVID and like, like how censorship can be not just, we're not just talking about like the philosophy of freedom. We're talking about like when social media people that controlled social media were removing like support groups for people who were, say, vaccine injured. And then those people then were put into an isolation type thing because they basically, we weren't allowed to say that a vaccine caused an injury, right? And so these people were then put into isolation because they lost the support of the group that they were in. And then I know somebody who had committed suicide because they felt like they were all alone, even though they knew they weren't alone because they had been in a group at one point. But when that group was removed, they went back to complete isolation, feeling like everything they were experiencing was not true, and they quickly got inside their own head, and then that was it. And so censorship can have a pretty significant impact on people. And so telling the truth about, telling the truth about that experimental, COVID vaccine was a very, very sensitive subject for a lot of people. And that may be, I could get more specific maybe, but, just thinking out loud, like how, telling the truth, a lot of people didn't want to hear the truth about that. And I fought with a lot of people about that. And I just felt like it was the right thing to do because I knew things and I had studied things, and it was hard to get people to listen at that time because there was such fear circulating around the globe.
Right.
But
so when you asked me that question, to me, it was like more on a scale of like one person to one person. Like if I needed to tell my mother something, I needed to tell her the truth about something because she was like not doing well, or it was going to prevent injury or heartache or whatever. Then it's on a more personal level. And I would say something, right, out of love. But I think where you're going with this about telling the truth, it's the truth, and it's not an opinion, but it's going online and speaking about something is telling the truth, but you also have, how do I explain this? You have the choice to be that person or not. And for example, myself, I do share some things in a tight group of what I believe in and what I stand for and stuff like that. But I don't go on my channels and talk about what I think about during COVID. We talk about it here, but I don't go on all of my channels and talk like that because my audience can't handle it for the most part. And I'm not saying that in the sense where they're not smart or anything. Like they would probably shun me, and it's not worth it for me because a lot of these people that may not understand, I care about. Like I can interact with all beings. You don't have to agree with me on certain things. So I do believe that there's telling the truth to like close people, and then what you're talking about, yes, it is, but it's also more on the standing up for something, which is beautiful. But I don't know that everybody wants to do that or has the capability of doing that. And I don't really peg myself to be that person who has that capability. And I've been, we had a comment on one of our episodes about this before, about like my like not being vocal about it. And like, I'm not comfortable with it. I'm comfortable here when I speak to you because these are conversations between you and I that people get to hear, right? But it's comfortable for me that way. I'm not comfortable walking down the street and saying, why the fuck are you wearing a mask, or whatever it may be, right? Not that I would ever do that anyway. Like I'm just let people do whatever they want, but it's just not in my nature to go and not all, like, depending the situation, but if we're talking about COVID, because that's what you were saying, I don't know. I think there's a lot of nuances in like, what is the truth? What is standing up for something? What situation is it? Telling the truth to a close person or telling the truth online about a huge topic? And are you that type of person that can be like, I'm gonna, do you know what I mean?
I do.
Yeah, I'm trying to explain, but it's hard. English is hard today.
No, this is a great, this is a really important conversation. And I like how you It's so funny. I was just thinking this earlier today. I was thinking, you know what this show is? This show is, and always was, and I think the intention of us, it was never about like we want to have all this great production value, but although we've certainly improved it, in a variety of ways, and there's the intro music and all this fun stuff. But I think one of the things that this always was to us,
It was
similarly when
genuine.
yeah, and it's like
Genuine.
this is Daryl and I sitting at a table talking, and
Mhm.
you're just in the room with us. This
Yeah.
is just what we would be sitting across the table talking about. And
Yeah.
you guys are here, and obviously you don't have the opportunity to chime in real time. You do in the comments. And at some point when we do like live Q&As now, we'll certainly do that. But that was all, what I think our vision for this always was just, this is what two people in the space, in the health space, at a very pivotal time in history, not just geopolitically, but public health, human health in general, just everything. We're at a precarious point where we can go one way or we
Mm.
can go another way. And Daryl and I view it as like going one way is objectively bad for people, and going another way is objectively, hopefully, has the potential at least to be incredibly positive for people. And you're hanging out with us on this path, and as we try to navigate it, and how we navigate it personally, but also how we try to navigate it
Mhm.
professionally. And
Mm.
so I just thought that was cool that you pointed that out, because that's exactly the way I've always viewed this show. And it can get very candid. I mean, we've both, just in the course of conversation, sometimes open up and say things that we might not necessarily say. But I agree with you. When we sit here and do this, it's just the two of us. And then when we go and post things, you realize, holy shit, that conversation was just between Daryl and I,
Yeah.
and now thousands and thousands and thousands of people are listening to it.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes I'm like, oops, should I have said that? But I think at the end of the day, well, I'll speak for myself. I do my best to answer your questions as just as they come, because it's a genuine conversation. But it's just interesting that I loved that question, and I loved where it went, because you and I are very different in that sense, where you speak very loudly about all of this all the time on your socials. You've kind of always done that, and for me, it's I think you're just a little bit ahead of the game of this sort of awareness than I am. I you know, I grew up in the military. I grew up in the government. I served in the military. And it was really only when COVID hit that I started being like, what the fuck is going on? Something's not
Your
right.
your your red pill just came a little bit later. We're just like
Fuck. And I was like, and
yeah.
then all of a sudden it was like, like nothing is normal. What is going on?
Yeah,
And then it
yeah.
just, but I'm still in that, like, I was what? I don't know. I've been out like I'm so bad with time. I want to say like 3, 4 years now, something like that, maybe more. Don't know. But that whole time before, like all of my people are a lot of them are still government people,
Right.
military brats that I grew up with. Like that's just, and they there's not a whole lot of conversation that I could have with them, with all of that I have uncovered for myself, you know?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
difficult. It's difficult.
I agree. And I think, one of the things that I hope that this audience knows, and obviously you're being introduced now to a larger audience on, quite frankly, on the
Oh.
network. But one of the things that I've one of the things that I've one of the reasons that we do this show, and one of the things that I've learned about you, just through our friendship, but then also through doing this together, is that I just think it's interesting because you are so careful about what you say, and it comes from not a place of self-censorship. It is really truly, you just have to know Daryl to know that this comes from just a truly genuine place of just always wanting to do the right thing, but also simultaneously not wanting to hurt
I don't wanna
anybody.
hurt anybody.
Right.
Exactly. I do not want to offend or hurt anybody.
Right. And,
Um,
and it takes
yeah.
time to be able to and maybe everybody has a different role to play. I'll be honest with you. I was so naive too, Daryl. Like when I started the social media thing, I started my education well before I ever started social media. And I told the story before when I was like sort of forced into starting social media because they were like, well, if you want to do this as a career, What are you going to do? Like, you got to be on social media. And I was like, fine. So I started doing it, and I was so naive, Daryl. I just thought the truth was the truth, and you just put the truth out there. And then I found out that when you start putting the truth out there, people hate you and they attack you and they want you to die. And they think that you're all kinds of things. I've been called all kinds of names. And it's like, wow. How
Has
is
it
that?
always been like that? I feel like maybe that's when I took a different pill, but I feel like I feel like it got bad when COVID happened.
Oh, it definitely accelerated,
Yeah.
but I was experiencing
Maybe
a
I
little
just
bit of
wasn't
this.
aware.
Yeah, even in the nutrition space, I was experiencing this, like, that's the weirdness of, like, just simply, again, I don't defend red meat because I have some vested interest in defending red meat. I defend red meat because, based on everything I know and everything I've learned, everything I've studied, and the countless amount of time I put into this, I know that that's the truth when it comes to human health. That red meat is a health food.
You
And so
mean you
that's why
haven't been paid?
I've not been paid.
Oh.
What a great segue, Daryl. I have not been paid. Daryl's trying to keep us on track because we're friggin' half an hour into this thing. We haven't even got to the topic du jour. But
Don't ask me why can't I say it?
What word?
Philosophical.
Oh, philosophize. That's a
Yeah.
weird word. I don't even know if
What
that's a
is
real
that?
word. I might have
Yeah.
made it up. It
Sounds like fossils and something else. You know what else I can't say?
What?
Hippo, but the long word.
Hippopotamus.
Not a chance.
Hippopotamus.
Nah, I can't do it.
I'm gonna write it out.
I want to
phonetically.
say hippopotamus every time, but I know that's not it. Yeah, there's another. I can't remember. There's a couple words. I just my tongue just doesn't. I don't know.
Well, again, remember, everybody, Daryl's first language is French. So if you can
I think
speak,
they know by now. But
yeah, if you can speak French as well as Daryl speaks English, then you can criticize. I certainly cannot, because we all know the
I
extent of
criticize
my
myself.
French.
I just can't say it.
Yeah, well, I'm just
Yeah.
saying anybody else. I mean, because
Yeah.
my fluency in French begins and ends at "I am a pineapple," and that's about as far as I can go.
Banana.
Thank you, Daryl.
Okay, let's talk about this article.
Let's get to this article, because if not, we'll be literally here till midnight. Okay, so I guess I'll share the article, right? I'll share the screen just so everybody can see it. And again, if you guys didn't go check out last week's episode, or I actually did go through the article on screen. Right-wing accounts got caught shilling for pop companies over the weekend. I actually,
can you say what is shilling?
Just doing things for money, basically. Yeah.
Isn't shilling a currency?
I think that's probably why it means that. Just occurred to me when you asked the question. I've never thought of that before, that word. And I was like, that must be where it comes from.
Yeah.
And if anybody knows the etymology of the word shilling, please let us know in the comments below. But do you know any of these accounts? I didn't ask you this. I'm only familiar with some of them. I don't follow any of them. I'm only familiar with some of them because other people post their stuff. You're not? Okay. These are pretty big, though. Like, some of these have millions of...
Maybe. Honestly, Jay, I do my stuff on Instagram, post, do a couple stories, do a couple food posts, and I get out. I don't hang out there because I just get frustrated. So
you're very smart. So these are accounts that are pretty big, and we don't have to read the entire article, but basically, so here's this company, Influenceable. The company cut big checks to influencers on behalf of Big Soda. Over the past 48 hours, several large, supposedly MAGA-aligned influencers posted almost identical talking points fed to them, convincing you that MAHA, Make America Healthy Again, was out of line for not wanting soda purchases with food stamps, SNAP. Some even slimily invoked President Trump as an emotional manipulation tactic, referring to his Diet Coke button. And I think last week I said, like, listen, Donald Trump put RFK in position of power that he's in for a reason. None of us are going to Donald Trump for health tips or nutrition tips. And I don't think Donald Trump would expect you to do that, right? Like, this is, it's so silly. And these are some of the posts. If you go to the site, you can see, and a lot of them are using the same language, which is really interesting. And I think some of the points were really good here. When you see anonymous accounts like Clown World, Not Jerome Powell, you have absolutely no idea who's running the account. It could be Nigerian farmers for all you know. Ian Miles Chong is a Malaysian gamer.
Why they use that example?
I was thinking it was like, those emails that you used to get where it's like, I am a Nigerian prince.
Yeah. Yes.
That's what I don't know if that's what it was, but that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Daryl, guess you're never going to guess what happened. A Nigerian prince just emailed me. He told
He
me that
wants
if
to marry me for $1 million.
all I have to do is give him my social security number.
People fall for that though.
I'm sure they do. That's probably why they still do it. And so they're going through some of these accounts, and this has been sort of proven out because this guy Eric Doherty, who got found out, he said, "Yeah, that was dumb of me. Massive egg on my face. In all seriousness, it won't happen again." Which I said, that's great and all, but no offense, you're only saying this because you got caught. Would you have fessed up if you hadn't gotten caught? Absolutely not. Of course not, because
In all
I bet
seriousness, it won't happen again.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I know. Let's see. These influencers were given a couple of templates to be used by Influenceable, with one of those templates specifically telling them to mention Trump's Diet Coke habit. And then he even has screenshots of the whole campaign and what they go through. And
so who sends these people this stuff?
This company called Influenceable.
So they send basically a script.
Correct.
To these people to bash Trump and RFK and the soda thing. And
really, that's what they're aimed at.
Basically.
Yep. Because
and then how did that get leaked? How did people find out?
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe. Well, I'll show you in a little bit lower. But here's the company. So this company, Influenceable, works with lobbying firms such as American Beverage and Cart Choice in the drink industry that receive their funding from corporations like Coca-Cola and Pepsi. So Coca-Cola and Pepsi pay Influenceable, and then Influenceable goes out and pays the social media people to go post for $1,000 per post to say, "Hey, we can't do this. This is government overreach." And I'll go a little bit further down because I think this is going to answer your question. Yeah. So Riley Gaines, who's a pretty famous female athlete, she came out and said they offered to pay me to post, and a big fat heck no. And then
I've seen a few big names come out and say that they've been asked to do so and said no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then RFK responded to Riley Gaines, saying it's troubling that some companies now think they have the right to demand taxpayer money to poison our children. And then there's the final thing here. But ask yourself, how many more of these campaigns have influenced you without you even knowing? And that's the thing. If you're finding out about this one, which ones do we not know about? And the answer to that is unknowable, right? I mean, it could be. So I don't know, Daryl. This drives me crazy. I just wanted to know what you thought of it. I don't know what to believe in the world anymore. You and I talk about influencers all the time. Like privately, Daryl and I will share things, and then we have like our little like team meeting behind the scenes, and like, well, I don't know what to, and the thing is, right? It's hard because
we know what you think. This one we're pretty sure of. We're pretty on the same page about that one.
But it's hard because some of these people have been like, and I wonder if it's subversion from within. So if I was going to destroy Make America Healthy Again, what I would do is let's just take your account, Team D Nutrition. I'd be like, all right, Daryl, so let's say you're influenceable. Let's say you're corruptible and you'll do anything for money. And I'll be like, all right, Daryl, I'm going to pay you $50,000 and you're going to insert yourself into the Make America Healthy Again movement. And we're even going to pay for followers for you. So you're going to have 1 million followers. All you got to do is go out there and just get in the good graces of Make America Healthy Again, right? You're going to be like supporting RFK. You're going to be all this stuff. You're going to be doing podcasts. We're going to book you here and there, right? And then once Trump is elected and RFK is confirmed as the head of HHS, now, if my goal was to subvert, right, I'm going to unleash you. You're like the Trojan horse. I'm going to say, oh, when something comes up, I'm going to have you now take the opposite approach. But now what have you done that whole time, Daryl? You have earned my trust. Like I'm just some dude sitting at home going, Make America Healthy Again. This girl's on my team. I'm going to listen to everything she says. And now she came out and said, oh, wait, we can't take away soda from underprivileged people. Oh, and I've been following Daryl for all these years and she's supported all the things I support. So she must be right about this.
Man, I hope y'all would raise an eyebrow. I don't want anybody to listen to anybody that much.
No.
You gotta. That's scary. That's a scary thought.
I think that's what's happening, though, Daryl. I really do.
I wouldn't be surprised. This is like on so many layers. Think about people who preach aspartame and artificial sweeteners and all those things. Like, I don't know. To me,
and we did a story about that too.
To me, it's so clear. It's like, in what fucking world are you comparing are you saying that that's like excellent for you? Like, what?
Hmm.
Can you just stop it? Stop it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bad.
Food police girl is who I think
Ugh.
of.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one day maybe you'll find out that she's getting paid by any number of one of those
I'm
companies, right?
waiting
And
for
so,
that day.
but that's a more obvious tactic. I think the underhanded one is when you is again the Trojan horse effect is when you get in the
Mm.
gates by because a lot of those accounts that I showed you, the Ian Miles Chong, all these people, they tend to be the more Trump supporting conservative side, right leaning people. So people tend to have built up a degree of trust. And so now when they come out and say something like that, to me, I think, oh, are they just basically purchasable? Like, are they just, is their opinion essentially for sale? And again, with millions of followers, that can be a pretty serious dent. And now that campaign didn't work, but I don't know. I mean,
I think it's because we've come to a place where we live in a world where a lot of us don't do our own research. And so we pull our information from big platforms,
yeah,
influencers, and then
yeah,
we side with them because it keeps us secure because we're like, this person knows what they're talking about, therefore I do, and I feel confident and safe here. But we should always do our own research and question. And if something is like, that's strange, go look it up.
yeah.
Spend a week looking it up and then make your own decision. Right? That's a scary place to be in, to have that much influence on humans.
Yeah. Yeah. And it concerns me because I think that in so many ways we can talk about this, but as the article closed, saying who knows how much this is happening without our awareness. And that's my
Oh my
great
God, so much.
concern.
Like, so much. On top of that, there's AI too. So sometimes it's funny that the comments, you could tell it's AI, and it's like,
Yeah.
it's just like,
Yeah.
oh
Yeah.
my God, somebody paid for 50 comments here and pushing something. But
Yeah. They're almost all identical.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's where we are. And I guess, the moral of the story is, what we want to do here is, we hope that you do come here and feel comfortable, and that you do come here and feel like, if, sometimes we get comments here like, oh, I was reading this article and I can't wait to hear what Daryl and Jay have to say about this. And I think that's really valuable. And we take that very, very seriously.
Of course. That's our way to interact with everybody for now. Yeah.
Yeah. But if you trust us that much and it matters to you, our opinion, I mean, we also take that so very seriously, but I think it's also just one piece of the puzzle. Like you should listen to other points of view, but also, it's tough when it's these blind accounts that you've never really interacted with. I mean, that we're, some of you have met me in person. So I mean, like, and obviously some of you have met Daryl in person, but we're real people doing things in the world, and we're going to get it wrong sometimes, but ultimately we're going to try our hardest to get it right. And, I can say this with 100% certainty. And in this moment where I never do, I can speak for Daryl and I can speak for myself and say, you'll never catch us getting paid to do anything that we don't believe in. For the love of God, when we are offered to get paid for something we do believe in, her and I still have a problem with it.
Yeah.
So, to think that we could ever do anything like that, I don't think either of us would ever be able to sleep again. It's just not in our nature. And that's, again, why this show made a lot of sense from the outset, because it's just, we have a very similar point of view on that stuff. And we take it very seriously when you guys are here listening to us. So
that I actually started, there's a few things that I have been playing with, and I reached out to the companies and been like, I really like your product. I just, wondering if you'd give me a discount code because I keep ordering it and I'd like to offer it to my clients. And they always come back and they say, yeah, no problem. We'll build you an account and you can get commission. And I'm like, nope. I just want my clients to be able to have a discount if they want to buy it. I don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah.
I cannot be that person online being like, buy my product. I'm just like, it just doesn't feel right. It just doesn't feel right. I love like promoting other companies and stuff like that I do believe in. Like we brought Alex on the show from Kono, and every now and then I give him a shout out because I fucking love his products. I take them all the time. But other than that, like I don't know why it feels so wrong. It feels
I'm with you,
wrong
Daryl.
to take
I'm with you.
money from, I don't know why. It just,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's just from a place of, being super transparent. And I don't think anybody would even have a problem, especially if we were transparent. But I think in the world that we live in, that's on such a razor's edge, and it's so easy to find corruption. It's so much better to be able to sleep at night if you can just really feel like your hands are completely clean and nothing is influencing your decision making in your
Right.
own pocketbook. Like, for example, what I'm doing, now, in this burgeoning business, which I'll talk about more here at some point soon. The perfect example is labs. I can run labs for people through this wholesale company. And so basically the labs are as cheap as they get. And the idea is that we're supposed to roll the price up. So I'll just use round numbers.
So you can make something off of it.
Correct. And
Right.
so immediately I was like, no,
Yeah.
I want the patient or the client to have the wholesale price, because I don't want, even subconsciously, I don't want in the back of my mind to think, well, the more labs I run, the more money I'll make. I know that I only run the labs that I want to run, but I say that at every intake. I tell the person, the labs are wholesale. The ones I'm asking for are the ones I want, because I refuse to make any money on this. And you have to know that, because I'm not going to have you think you had to pay $300 out of pocket for a lab because I'm sitting here going, great, I make more money that way. I was like, I'm removing that from the equation completely.
Totally. That's like doctors who make cut on prescription medication, right?
Right. Yep.
So, or pharmacists as well sometimes.
Yeah.
Or the insurance companies as well. Yeah.
Yep.
So all of them.
Yeah. I just immediately wanted that off the table. I was like, you know what? The money that's going to be made is going to be on membership fees, that people know what they're paying. If they're paying for labs, they're paying out of pocket, but they're paying the company directly. I want nothing to do with it,
Yeah.
So that's
honestly, as it should be. Like,
yeah, I know. I agree. I agree.
For me, I think with the product thing, I think it's because it's not my product,
Sure.
Like I'm like, I didn't invent this,
Mm-hmm. And I see it from the product side, because I mean, your audience is valuable. They trust you. And so having you recommend it and throwing you a couple of bucks, is good for them. But I totally understand why you would not want to take that, because it's like, it's just better to leave yourself out of the equation if you can. And you make money running your business the way you know how to run your business, and you're so successful, and the women love you, and that's why they come to you, and that's why they, that's where your income comes from. And I think that's a good way of, a good business model. Well, 47 minutes in, like I said, I knew that was going to happen. That's okay. Yeah. It's because this is not going to be a two-parter. This was going to be, last week was the preview to this. And so I just wanted to get Daryl's point of view. And I knew exactly where this conversation was going to go, but it even went places that exceeded my expectations. Mm-hmm. So thank you for that, Daryl. Mm-hmm. And
we really want to hear from the audience about that question. I'm not going to say the word again, but the question in the beginning.
Truth. Truth.
Why can't I fucking say that word right now?
Oh, philosophy. Is there a French word for philosophy?
Philosophie. It's the same.
So say that from now on.
Yeah.
Just inject the French. Yeah.
I don't know why.
That's funny. I mean, and we'll do, also, you know what? Just let us know if you like episodes that are more, I mean, we always go back and forth. Sometimes we're going to have hard science episodes. Like we have a couple of papers that we've been saying we're going to discuss, and apologies, but like sometimes things just come up and we can't help but want to get on this track. And that's just, again, you guys are just sitting at a kitchen table with us and you're listening to a conversation. But sometimes I just like knowing that we're coming into the week with a general idea, and we can just, you and I can just riff on this stuff. And here we go for 49 minutes and haven't, there has been no hesitation. So that's always fun too. So whatever you guys like, that's what we're going to do. But hopefully you guys are here for all of it, because we really enjoy going back and forth on a bunch of different topics. So. Mm-hmm. All right. So with all that being said, this is not a part 2 episode, but we will see you next week. But I don't know. It's going to be something completely brand new. We're going to be in different clothes. Everything is going to be different next week. It's going to be wild.
Probably going to be wearing black again, but that's okay. Yeah.
You're talking about
black
you, right?
White. I'm wearing gray.
Oh, so you're the mixture of black and white. This is really, now we're going meta. All right, Daryl. Well,
All right,
thank you
friends.
so much for hanging out, and we'll see you next
Ciao
week.
for now.